Hi there. Hey there, ho there. We're as happy as can be.
Welcome back.
It's another week, another session of three-ball walk. A lot of baseball. Softball over, done.
Softball's done.
And what's your What do you? I'm going to go to Bob.
Okay.
What's your story of the week?
My story of the week. The Braves are still in first place,
The Braves are still.
and they're a game up, not a half game. I've only seen Twice, and Kershaw's back on the DL, and the Dodgers are on a winning streak. So that Eddie's
My theory still holds
true.
Mason Baumgartner made his
His debut, 6 innings,
pitched pretty well, gave up 2 runs.
2 runs, and they lost, but he pitched well.
He pitched well.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks, I'll tell you what, they're looking good.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are looking real good. I mean,
That whole division, I don't think the Dodgers are going to be able to.
No.
I don't know. They're only 2 games back. Hey, San Francisco's only 2.5 back. The whole of you throw a rock over and hit them all at one time. Who knows? They got to play each other at some point, though. That's got to separate. Well, it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
If
They
they
can
all
just split and stuff.
Yeah.
beat upon the other.
You would think it would
Plus
split
interleague play helps.
Yeah.
at some point.
So you like the West, or what's your story? Is it even Major League Baseball?
No, my story is how bad the NCAA did in their seedings for baseball. Or if you're a glass half full guy, how great it was that 8 of the top 16 teams didn't make it out of their host regionals.
Yeah.
4 out of the top 8. That's the one that bothers me. 4 out of the top 8 got beat. And didn't just get beat. They got beat pretty soundly, most of them. A couple of them were 2 and done.
And a lot of them is, and it's, do you reward the teams on their body of work?
Well, Vanderbilt's a number 2 seed.
Right. And they probably might have
They
deserved
should have been
to
a
be
double.
3.
They should have been a 1.
No.
Yeah, they should have been a 1 over North Carolina State.
What?
Over North Carolina State?
They weren't. They were about the 20th team. They were ranked 20th. That's about where they were. NC State was a 16.
I see. That's the part. They didn't get the seeds right for whatever reason, whatever formula they used. I'm not saying they didn't use.
Who was
formula.
better? Who was better, Vanderbilt or Georgia?
I think both of them are better than North Carolina State.
Okay, I'm not forgetting Vanderbilt or Georgia.
That's a tough call. Hey,
It's a pretty easy call. Georgia ran away. If it wasn't for the Gators, Georgia would have won the division.
Except
they were the
didn't.
strongest team
down the stretch.
Not down the stretch. Down the stretch, they did. They lost the one series at the end of the season there.
And they like Florida went really bad out from the others. So, it's an interesting stretch.
But you reward Georgia because they had a great year.
I'm not saying Georgia shouldn't have hosted.
Well, so NC State shouldn't have hosted because they lost their regional, and Georgia should have hosted and they lost theirs.
I'm saying Georgia shouldn't have been a top 8 seed.
The problem is, and here's the whole thing, and you're going to see it in baseball. Baseball, you are as good as your starting pitching is at that time. Okay? And Florida, the number 1 seed,
Struggled.
And
I was on record last week saying I didn't think Florida deserved the number 1
Stanford
seed.
should have been the number 1 seed.
And they were worse.
Okay? And that's my whole point is the way baseball is, are you rewarding, well, over the last 3 weeks, this is the best team in the country right now. Mississippi State's playing awesome. Mississippi State's almost a 500 team. But you're going to give them, should we have made Mississippi State a number 5 seed?
No.
And they had a terrible season?
No, I agree. I agree on that. Some of them I agree. I just think it's very difficult when that's the case.
What is the process to decide?
In baseball, it's based on your season, where you're at, and everything like that.
It's based on your RPI, and it's based on your position in the poll. Those are the 2 things. But
unfortunately,
and whether or not you want to host.
Right.
You could be the best team in the country. Jackson Kowar hasn't been throwing as good as he did all year. J.J. Schwartz is hurt. And guess what? Your team's not going to be as good in the SEC tournament in the postseason as it was during the whole season.
Sure.
So then do you say, well, Florida, you were great. You're the best team in the country, but you're not going to get a. You're not going to get a.
You tell me this: if Florida plays anywhere other than
there's a good chance they don't.
probably didn't get out.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, and it depends on who they match up with.
They didn't play well enough for me to be a number 1 overall seed. Did they play well enough to be a top 8 seed? Yes, I agree with that. Even down the stretch.
Well, guess what? if their number 2 seed would have been Mississippi State, would have been Vanderbilt, I know it's conference teams.
We probably wouldn't have made it out.
Then they wouldn't have deserved to be a number 8. It's really hard in baseball.
When you lose 2 in a row, that's the one that gets me. I can get that you run into a hot pitcher, but 2 days in a row.
Ole Miss should never.
Ole Miss shouldn't have been knocked out.
But Ole Miss did a great job of sitting there, and Ole Miss did a great job of knocking off Arkansas, who is playing really well, and that was the week before. You sometimes.
Yeah, you can get a game. All right, Sanford knocks off Florida State. Right, I watched that game, and Sanford's pitcher, left-handed pitcher, their number 1 is pretty good. He's really a solid pitcher. All right, Florida State didn't pitch their top guy because they thought they could get by. Right, so they didn't pitch their number 1 guy. They think they can get by,
and they lost.
All right, but then your second game when you throw in your number 1 guy against Mississippi State. You should win. You should win.
And they should.
They didn't.
Well, is it because of FSU?
Yes.
I'll tell you. No, that you know that game. You saw that game, right?
It was 3-2. He lost it. I know in the 9th inning. He pitched. They pulled him or didn't pull him. Should have pulled him. Mike Martin should have pulled.
Should have pulled him. Eddie, the dude throws 8 innings, 109 pitches, and they go into a 2.5-hour rain delay, and they resume in the 9th, and he brings them back out.
Exactly. He shouldn't have pitched him.
No. And he had allowed 2 hits and no walks.
Great.
2 hits and no walks up to that time through 8 innings, and he comes out in the 9th and walks 2 guys. You think that might be a signal that maybe he's not
the first one?
Maybe maybe he's not quite the guy that we had 2.5 hours ago before he just sat there for. And then Mike Martin was, well, you know, he got a rest and he's been doing well and everything like that. And then he throws himself under the bus. And then you want to know how he threw himself under the bus again? Well, you know, he threw 109 pitches. He finished with 143 pitches, okay? Because he threw a 35 pitch till the walk-off, the last pitch he made, and threw the walk-off 3-run homer.
Plus the pitches in between that you throw.
No, and that's the whole thing. So Mike Martin, well, you know, 109, and then we were thinking, but the rain delay, and he wanted to go and everything like that. And then he says, to justify himself, and then I think he realized he threw himself under the bus, he says, well, you know, during the rain delay, I had him getting up every now and then to stay warm. So he probably threw another 60, 70, 80 pitches in the bullpen during the rain delay. And he brings, and you want to know what? And no disrespect.
Mike Martin's the winningest coach in baseball.
They've been to all these, they've had all these players and all these really, really high draft picks. Tell me an FSU pitcher in the big leagues.
I don't know of one.
I can't think of one.
Okay?
That's the reason why.
That's it, right? He is more concerned about winning.
And always more concerned with hitting as well.
It's burning out your pitching.
But they have not had.
There's been a lot. And I can't think of right now.
I'm sorry to say, name me one. But there hasn't been one that's been a top draft pick. There hasn't been one that's been in the top 25 in draft pick that's been a pitcher. The only one was the reliever.
I'm going to come back with that.
The only one was the reliever a few years ago, who pitched. And I can't remember his name, but he was a reliever, and he got drafted pretty high. But their starting pitching has always been good, but not great, and they win.
The reliever that got drafted pretty high, that Winston guy.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, he got drafted
pretty high too. Yeah,
number 1.
Yeah, football, but wrong sport.
Oh, okay.
Wrong sport.
But he was the reliever guy, wasn't he?
Right, he did come in to relieve, but then another guy, not him.
Oh, not him.
Not him.
Another reliever.
But you know, most of the time you think of FSU, you think of their position players, the Buster Posneys, the guys who end up playing in the big leagues come out of the position because they can hit. I mean, Mike Martin's always just been a hitting club more than a pitching club.
Did you see the game the Gators won? And this is kind of, you know, the game the Gators won after losing the first game to Florida Atlantic. And
no, I didn't. It was 2 a.m. when it ended. I was a long time asleep.
Well, I'm talking at about midnight when it was in the 4th inning.
No, I went to sleep.
So he goes out there, Leftwich, the freshman, goes out there, and in the first inning, walk 3.
45 pitches. I saw through the third.
45 pitch. Okay, so you saw that.
I saw through the third.
And gave up the two-run double.
Right.
And then got out of it and finally struck out the last 2 guys to get up with the bases loaded and got out of that first inning mess, and then retired 3 in a row in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So he retired 11 in a row. He was at 94 pitches, and he is now locked in, and Sully pulled him after only 4. That's the difference right there between coaching.
Well, I think also
And that's why Sully gets those guys to come.
Right, but I think also that's the difference in knowing your pitchers and how long you can stretch them. I mean, this is essentially the last game of that guy's career. I would not have brought him back. Let's be clear. I would not have brought him back.
No,
there's no way after the rain delay you bring him
not
back.
Not after a 2.5.
There's no way. You risk injury. There's just no way that you can do that. You can keep him warm through an hour rain delay even to keep going. So I'm not saying that. But what
and then he walks 2 guys.
But what I am saying is I don't know Mike Martin's staff, and maybe they don't have a closer. Maybe that's the reason why they weren't as high as they normally are. I don't know.
They've got to win another game after that. It's not like
they got to win 2 games after that.
It's not like, okay, I got to make it and then I'm done and I can rest my guys. You've got a whole another game anyway.
And maybe that's why. I don't know. I don't know the process. Maybe Mike Martin had a brain fart at that moment.
He wasn't watching, and I'll tell you why. Did you see any of that game or the same?
No, I didn't.
Your alma mater, you didn't see Sanford at all?
Yeah, I saw Sanford, but I just didn't see them play.
But you saw Sanford playing in there. So you saw a game from that regional.
Right, I saw them
and
in
they've
FSU.
got, and behind home plate from the center field camera.
Yeah.
And you got Mike Martin up there.
With his back.
With his back. Have you ever seen that? Usually it's like someone with their number and whatever. It's like his back. So he wasn't watching the game.
All right. So I don't know about that, but congratulations to FSU for winning the Women's College World Series. As much as that pains me to say,
yes.
At least there was not another Pac-12 school there. Again, I thought several other people agreed with me that the Pac-12 bias was in effect again.
It was really. I hadn't seen it in a while.
And it had come back, and so
it hurt It hurt Oklahoma.
It hurt
FSU.
Yeah.
FSU overcame. I'll tell you, and I didn't see much of the Washington. The Gators were playing on Monday night, and then last night, Mia Pa, 15 years.
Happy anniversary, Mia Pa.
Happy anniversary. And we went and had a little Cuban party and everything like that. So I didn't watch much, but I did watch some of the UCLA.
Yeah.
And they had to beat UCLA twice, and that one they got by. I mean, they overcame the umpiring.
Yeah,
and I can't believe I'm saying that about FSU.
But FSU, I told you FSU had a good team. I saw them play both times against us, and they're a really good squad. And their pitcher, she is legit, and so I give them the credit. It's hard to do. It's hard to win it, no matter what happens, and it's really hard when they want the Pac-12 to win. And I'm convinced they wanted the Pac-12 to win. And they set it up to have 2 Pac-12 teams finish, and Florida State messed them up.
Well,
and then Florida State walked the dog on Washington.
And they set it up where they were hosting the Super Regionals, which is basically what eliminated the SEC.
Yeah.
The SEC had to travel 2 Pac-12
Well,
schools.
And Pac-12 teams will say, well, last year we had to travel to all the SEC schools, and that may be true. It's hard to tell which conference is better. It's interesting to think about, and I didn't do the research, maybe I'll do it for next week, of looking at how many neutral site games were played and who won the neutral site games. I know Washington, that was the first time Washington had lost to a non-Pac-12 team.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I don't know who
And
they
a lot
played.
of those neutral sites, I mean, aside from playing that tournament down in Clearwater or USF or whatever.
Well, there's a lot, most of them are on the West Coast.
Florida plays them out on the West
Yeah,
Coast.
they play them on the West Coast anyway, or Palm Springs. That's where most of the West Coast teams play. But congratulations to Florida State.
Good.
For sure.
And they won it, national championship.
They hit a lot of home runs, and again, sometimes it's equipment, but I think that they just really had a good year. They had good sticks, and they had good bats, and kudos to them.
And they lost that first game to Georgia.
Yeah, and Georgia beat
That's
them.
what's amazing.
And then they came back. They're only the
toughest.
3rd team in history of the Women's College World Series to lose on the first day and win it all.
And to come out of the loser bracket.
They're the first ones since they've started the best out of 3
Wow. That's
to win it all
yeah.
for the final. So congratulations to them. Well, softball's over. Baseball goes into Super Regionals this weekend. 6 SEC school teams made it, right? Is that right?
6.
6.
And in 3 different Super Regionals.
And they all play each other.
3 teams, 3 SEC teams will be in the College World Series.
That's right, because they all play each other.
Play each other, right.
Which is kind of funny that it happened that way.
And everyone, the NCAA needs to watch out how they're doing and everything. You can't predict the number 2 seed. Which one of them, I want to say the Mississippi State Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Neither of those 2 were supposed to even be in it.
No, and Mississippi State's got a problem. I don't even know how they decided that one to host. I don't remember who's hosting it. Let me see.
No, it's whoever. I did find that out.
No, but Mississippi State has their field isn't ready. Their stadium isn't ready for play. They weren't expecting to host, and
they're already starting to tear down.
They're doing construction on their field.
Then why they did? Because I did find out if you're one of the top 8 seeds, you get to host. If that team gets eliminated, the other side gets the host.
Right.
If neither of those two made it, like in this case, each team, the 2 and 3 seeds, put in a bid to be able to take it, and whoever had the highest bid. So I'm sure Mississippi State wants to host it, put in a nice bid, but then they didn't expect. Well, not they didn't expect the other team to get in.
Real quick, no, time's up. Florida Auburn, who gets out of the Super Regional?
Florida, I think, makes it out, but I tell you what, it's going to be tough. I'm not. That's a coin toss. The winner Friday night, whoever wins,
it's
Saturday night.
Saturday noon.
Oh, we'll talk about that as we begin the second segment, and then we'll move on because there's something we got to talk about that. Thanks, NCAA. We'll be right back.